Home selling, step 8, under contract is not done. It's the most fragile phase. If you're under contract on your home, this is where many sellers realize the real negotiation has begun. Up to now, you controlled most of the variables. You decided whether selling made sense, ran the numbers, prepared the home, chose representation, priced with discipline, and launched cleanly. Once the contract is signed, the balance shifts. The process becomes buyer protective, deadlines compress, and stress rises. That's normal. It's also why this step exists. Here is the blunt truth sellers need to understand. Buyers have many ways out of a contract. Sellers have very few. It's not a flaw in the system. It's how residential real estate is designed. The same protections that existed when you bought the house now protect your buyer. If you expect symmetry, you'll feel blindsided. If you understand the structure, you can manage it. The accepted offer is not the finish line. It is the maximum the buyer was willing to offer before inspections, appraisal, and reality intervened. After acceptance, three forces test the deal at the same time: inspections, lender requirements, and human anxiety. Your job is not to win every point. Your job is to keep a good contract alive without destroying your net proceeds. In Texas, the auction period is the buyer's learning window. During this time, the buyer can terminate for almost any reason. Sellers often underestimate how much leverage exists here and overestimate how much control they retain. In most normal situations, an option period longer than 10 days adds fragility without adding value. 10 days is common because that's how long inspections usually take. Around holidays, limited extensions may be practical due to inspector and contractor availability. Longer windows without clear reason mostly benefit the buyer, not the deal. Requests to extend the option period can mean two different things. Sometimes the buyer is still invested in resolving logistics. Sometimes they're buying time to exit the deal. Modest extension fees can help clarify intent. Your realtor should help you decide whether an extension stabilizes the contract or merely delays its failure. Inspection reports are where anxiety spikes. They're designed to be exhaustive, not proportional. Inspectors are required to report issues that may be minor, outdated, or already understood. Buyers often read these reports without context and react emotionally. Many will ask for more than they expect to receive. That's not hostility, it's fear and strategy. Your job is to sort inspection requests into three buckets. First, the true deal stoppers: health, safety, structural, roof, major plumbing, or major electrical issues. Second, market normal requests that keep the deal moving. Third, items not grounded in reality: personal preferences, cosmetic complaints framed as defects, or demands that ignore what the house clearly is. Do not negotiate in the dark. Some sellers are advised not to review inspection reports under the theory that if you didn't see it, it didn't exist. That approach is outdated and risky. Issues raised during negotiation do not disappear because you avoided the document. They follow the transaction, affect disclosure obligations, and weaken your ability to negotiate intelligently. Choosing not to look does not reduce risk, it concentrates it. There is a critical distinction sellers must understand. Inspection-driven items are negotiable. Lender or appraisal-driven items often are not. If a lender requires a repair for the loan to fund, that is not a negotiation tactic. It is a condition of closing. Many major inspection issues are the same issues that later trigger lender conditions. Addressing them is less about appeasing one buyer and more about keeping the home financeable for any buyer. Once a major defect is discovered, it follows the house. If the deal dies, the next buyer is likely to find the same same issue, or ask about it, and disclosure obligations increase. Terminating does not reset the clock. You either fix it now, fix it later, or disclose it indefinitely. There is no fourth option. Think of this as a deferred cost of ownership, not punishment for selling. When repairs are requested, sellers often default to fixing everything because it feels responsible. Sometimes a credit or price concession is cleaner. Credits are faster, give buyers control over contractors, and reduce scheduling risk, especially when timelines are tight or scope is uncertain. Repairs rarely increase value dollar for dollar. They preserve the transaction. That is the correct framework. For older systems, a basic home warranty can sometimes stabilize buyer anxiety. It's not a cure-all, but compared to replacing a major system outright, it can be a low-cost concession that keeps negotiations from escalating. When a repair is required by the lender or flagged in the appraisal, there's usually no practical way to agree your way out of doing it properly. These are funding conditions. Repairs that require licensed professionals should be completed by licensed professionals. In Texas, this is not just best practice, it is how repair amendments are written and enforced. Lenders and appraisers may require documentation, and informal fixes often fail that test. Skipping permits, using unlicensed labor, or attempting quiet workarounds does not eliminate the risk. It transfers it forward. The repair either has to be done correctly now or it resurfaces later, often during appraisal, underwriting, or the next sale. Problems tied to licensing and permits tend to follow the house, not the owner. This is also why I recommended pre-listing inspections only when sellers are prepared to act on the results. In Texas, if you have had an inspection within the last 2 years, you're generally required to provide it to a buyer. Once a documented issue exists, it cannot be unseen. If a pre-listing inspection identifies a major defect and it is not corrected, the seller is often in a weaker position than if that inspection had never been done. A pre-listing inspection is a tool, not protection. Its value comes from fixing or curing material issues before buyers see the home. Ordering one without addressing major findings does not reduce risk, it puts it in black and white. Appraisal is the next stress test. Appraisers work for lenders, not buyers or sellers. Their job is to manage risk, not reward ambition. Even well-priced homes can encounter low appraisals. When that happens, the options are limited. The buyer can bring more cash, the price can adjust, or the gap is split. The appraisal is disputed, or the deal fails. Reappraisals are possible, but slow and uncertain. One proactive step sellers can take is sharing their pricing logic and a clear list of improvements with the buyer's agent so it can be provided to the lender and appraiser. Assume everyone involved is overloaded. Helping them see the relevant data is not manipulation, it's self-protection. Throughout this phase, never communicate directly with the buyer. That instinct is understandable and almost always destructive. Both sides are emotional. You pay for representation to translate stress into structure, not to escalate it. Treat this like opposing counsel in a lawsuit. Communication flows through professionals for a reason. If inspection or appraisal issues threaten to erase your equity entirely, forcing the sale may not be rational. Terminating does not make the problem disappear. It becomes disclosed. You will address it now or later. Pausing the sale can be a strategic choice, not a failure, but it carries risk. Markets change. Waiting does not guarantee recovery. If timing or relocation makes pausing impossible, you still have choices. Accept the controlled loss, carry overlapping housing costs, adjust strategy, and trade certainty for outcome. The mistake is not loss. The mistake is letting loss compound through delay and indecision. This phase feels tense because it is. It is also predictable. If you prepared honestly, priced defensively, and entered the contract with realistic expectations, most of this is manageable. Problems that feel catastrophic are often operational. Problems that are truly structural would have existed whether you sold now or sold later. Being under contract is not being done. It's the most fragile part of the transaction. If you understand the rules, keep negotiation structured, and resist emotional shortcuts, most contracts make it through this phase. In the next step, we move into the final runway: title work, funding last week timing, oh, title work, funding, last week timing, and how to avoid preventable surprises when you're closest to the finish line.